It kind of could depend upon your perspective on how you look at the Rams in 2018. Like, if you're a Rams fan, how mad can you really be at what's been done the past 2 years under head coach Sean McVay and general manager Les Snead? Like, the entire culture and environment of this organization changed and shifted dramatically. You got past the suck of Jeff Fisher, and now you're looking at it and you're seeing a scenario where you've got the right head coach clearly. You've got an established big name defensive coordinator in Wade Phillips. You've got an explosive offense that can score big points. In 2 years, you've won your division a couple of times, and you just came off of a Super Bowl appearance. And while it didn't ultimately go the way you had hoped, you still have a lot of that core in place, and you could potentially be in a position to make another run. At least, if anything else, you're Los Angeles. You went to the new market, second biggest market in the country, and you're competitive and a contender from the jump. That really, really helps. And like I said, I look at this team and I say, it's not all that bad. It was a rough Super Bowl loss, and Goff looked horrible, and McVay looked intimidated by Belichick and clearly was outcoached. But they could be in a situation where it's not the last time that they get back there. I think I look at it this way for this team in 2018. There were two injuries that really, really impacted them. I think the Cooper Kupp injury really impacted Jared Goff in that passing game, because you went from having three wide receivers you really, really had to worry about, and Cooper Kupp potentially being the best of those three in terms of what he can bring to that system. Although you could certainly make an argument for Robert Woods, or maybe you even want to make an argument for Brandon Cooks. But when Cooper Kupp went out, it changed the dynamics of that passing game for the Rams quite a bit, and I feel like that negatively impacted Jared Goff, and it impacted some of the play calling that Sean McVay wanted to do. And then once you got to the playoffs and Todd Gurley started having the knee issues and the knee concerns, that's when it changed everything about that team. And that really, really ended up costing them come Super Bowl time. There's no question. So it was those two injuries that you could really point to. And you could say, for a team that went all in, brought in Ndamukong Suh, traded for Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib, traded midseason for Dante Fowler, and what a great addition he was. Traded a first-round pick for Brandon Cooks. They clearly went all in. It was Cooper Kupp getting hurt and being out the rest of the year, and Todd Gurley getting a knee injury at the worst time of the year that I think prevented the Rams from ultimately being what they should have been, which was Super Bowl 53 champions. You can certainly say that they benefited from the non-call in the NFC Championship game, what clearly was pass interference. Them's is the break sometimes, as much as I hate to say it to Saints fans. Because there are other calls that were missed that should have went against the Saints in the course of that game. And if you're in a position and a point where one play can ultimately cost your team, then that's a problem in and of itself. And I even say that about my Bears when it comes to everybody wanting to blame Cody Parkey for the double doink and why they lost that game. No, look at Matt Nagy's horrible play calling the first three quarters in that game. Look at Mitchell Trubisky's pedestrian performance during certain portions of that game. Look at the fact that the top defense in the league got lit up a couple of times in the fourth quarter. There's more than one thing that always contributes to a team winning or losing. So you look at this team, they went out and let Ndamukong Suh go in free agency, which I understand. Use that money instead to bring in Clay Matthews and Eric Weddle, a couple of guys that you figure bring veteran presence, can still play a little bit, will be a good fit in Wade Phillips' defensive scheme. The thing that really surprised me, though, is that they went out there in front of themselves and went ahead and gave Jared Goff that big-time extension. Gave him 4 years, $134 million, $110 million of that guaranteed. Based off of what I saw in the Super Bowl, that would concern me quite a bit. But maybe they felt that the relationship between him and Sean McVay was good enough, and that they saw at certain times last year Jared Goff looked like a borderline MVP candidate. He was really, really good. They feel like they can get more of that in the future, so I can kind of understand it. That said, the Rams didn't do a ton in the draft, I think, to give themselves immediate help. I did like Taylor Rapp, the safety from Washington, David Long Jr., Darrell Henderson. I mean, they added a few guys, but Rapp might be the guy most likely to provide immediate contributions, immediate impact in that secondary of the Rams. When you look at the strength of this team, I would say when you look offensively, obviously, Cooper Kupp coming back into the fold healthy. Got arguably the best trio of wide receivers in the National Football League between Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Certainly New England now is going to have a stake to that claim with Edelman and Gordon and Brown. But we can't sleep too much on the Rams. That's a really, really good trio of wide receivers. And now they are arguably getting their best one back from that ACL injury. They just locked up Tyler Higbee, I believe, to a contract extension, if I'm not mistaken. He was a guy that, they had drafted in the mid rounds a couple of years ago. He's shown himself well. I look at the running game, and assuming Todd Gurley is at least somewhat healthy, him and Malcolm Brown should be a pretty good 1-2 combination of running back. Maybe Henderson could come in at some point in time and provide some life and lift in that running game. Defensively, you've got Aaron Donald. You mother effing have Aaron Donald. That is a strength and a strength of a strength of a strength of a strength and a half. Like, you do so many things on defense because of Aaron Donald. He is unblockable. He is unstoppable. He is arguably the most unstoppable defensive player that I have ever seen in my lifetime. And I have seen a lot of great ones. I've seen the Ronnie Lotts. I've seen the Reggie Whites. I have seen the Bruce Smiths. I have seen so many guys. And Aaron Donald might damn well end up being the best out of all of them that I've ever seen. Just insane. Just absolutely insane. And then you've got Sean McVay calling the plays on offense. He's a top-flight offensive mind. You've got Wade Phillips calling the plays on the defensive side of the ball. He's a top-flight defensive mind. So you got a well-coached team on offense and defense with some marquee, notable, big talent on both sides of the ball. It's a pretty good formula for success. My question marks, though, still with this team, where's the edge rush going to come from? If you're keeping Dante Fowler, maybe he's one of the guys. Maybe Clay Matthews could come in some spots and provide you some lift on the outside as an edge rusher, but you're going to need that on a consistent basis in order to truly run a successful 3-4. Then I look at the offense and I say, are you going to be able to keep the key guys healthy? Specifically Todd Gurley. What's the situation going to be with his knee? How much are you going to be able to count on him? Is he ever going to be the Todd Gurley of old? Are you going to have to keep him on pitch counts and be very strategic and selective about where you implement and use him? Is he going to be right as rain again? Cooper Kupp, same thing. Although I envision, since his game wasn't so much built on big-time explosiveness and speed anyways, the impact to him from the torn ACL won't be that significant. I would expect him to come back and be just fine. But still some question marks here, but this is still a really good team. Like, early on in the year, they're going to start with some marquee games at Carolina week 1, hosting New Orleans week 2, their chance to get revenge on their turf for the NFC Championship game. You got to believe that they're going to be pumped up for that one. And then week 3, going to Cleveland to take on Baker and the Browns. If they can come out of that stretch of games 3-0, which they have a possibility to do so, then, man, that's a hell of a way to come back from losing the Super Bowl, especially the way that they did, which is still a question mark and concern for me. You never know with these teams that lose the Super Bowl. Sometimes there's a hangover and sometimes there's not. Will there be a hangover for the Rams, or will they be right as rain right out of the gate? Well, the first few games of the season, a great way to find that out. Then weeks 10 through 12, they got a potential tough stretch of schedule there. They got to go to Pittsburgh to take on Big Ben and the Steelers. Then they host Chicago week 11, who beat the hell out of them last year in the regular season. Then they play Baltimore at home. Baltimore going to bring in Lamar Jackson in that running game, and that Ravens defense could be a really tough matchup. With all that said, I still think the Rams are the class of the NFC West. It'd take a couple of really significant, serious downturns in players, serious, significant injuries for anything to change that. They're going to win 11 or 12 games, and I think they're going to win this division relatively comfortably.